Hey everybody, welcome to Around the Verse. I'm Sandy Gardner.
And I'm back.
Right, I just got that. We hit $69 million.
Which is, no jokes about that. It's an incredible amount of support for Star Citizen. Thank you for making the game happen. One question that's come up is, what are we going to do about stretch goals for the recent ones we hit over the holidays, 67, 68, 69? The answer is that we're putting together longer design posts that are going to celebrate each goal. They're just going to take a little bit of time as our designers get back to work.
And then we're also going to put some status on the existing ones at some point.
Yes, we have a new page in the works, thanks to Ms. Gardner here, where we're going to kind of update you on all the previous stretch goals, where we are in development, give you a little deeper look at underneath the skin of Star Citizen.
Because I want my repair bot, damn it.
It's coming.
And my pet. Town Hall at PAX South. We hope to see you there.
It's going to be a really cool event. It's our first town hall. A lot of MMOs do this after their game launches. We are trying it out well in advance of launch. We want to get some of your game ideas. We want to share with you some of the incredible work the guys in Austin have done. And basically we want to kind of give a little more informal atmosphere where you can meet the team behind the game and chat with some of the folks who are coming up with the ideas.
And you will get a digital item.
Yes, there will be a digital item to be revealed for everybody who picks up a ticket. That's be pretty cool. And we'll also note that this one is not going to be live streamed. We are recording the panels and Chris's presentation, and they'll be available at a later date. But if you want to be the absolute first person to find out what's going on, you should be there in San Antonio.
We did look into live streaming, however, it was incredibly expensive to get into the venue and also to get the bandwidth for all the crew in there, so we decided not for this one.
Well, our history of live stream anyway, this will probably be
that is
more
true.
Reliable. Yeah.
It is very stressful every time. BAFTA tickets are sold out.
That's going to be a cool presentation. That is next week, I believe.
Yes, it is. I've been doing a lot of work for that presentation for next week.
Chris is going to be talking to an audience of kind of Hollywood elite cool movie people, foreign press. It's going to hopefully get Star Citizen some attention elsewhere.
And some of our cool fans as well are going.
Absolutely.
About 100 of those, yeah.
Tickets are sold out now, but we look forward to seeing some of you. Actually, I won't, because I will be in Austin that week, so Sandy looks forward to seeing you.
I do look forward to seeing you. Ship Summit is going on this week. The Austin folks actually showed up next door this morning, and I was quite surprised. I'm like, what are you doing here?
Yes, if you hear some talking in the background, that is the ongoing Ship Summit. We've got a lot of guys from Austin and some guys from the UK here, basically putting together the pipeline for ships for the next year. You probably heard about a lot of summits recently with Star Citizen. We're kind of kicking off the year getting everything organized for the next 12 months. So Chris was over in the UK for a while on the Squadron 42 summit. Now we've got the ship summit. There's an audio summit coming up. All sorts of things, just getting on the right page to start the year.
The team is pushing to get Arena Commander 1.0.1 out.
Arena Commander 1.0.1 is going to address a lot of the kind of balancing and bug-related issues folks discovered over the holidays in Arena Commander. And it'll also add a couple weapons for the Voyager Direct store. We are going to be putting this one out to the public test universe first. Possibly by the time you watch this, it will already be available. And hopefully it'll go wide any day now.
The live stream contest winners. We have a winner for the Constellation model that has been signed. Who is it?
That is Dark Myth with the Day of Champions, a Vandul holiday which determines the alphas for the next year through ritual combat. And as his prize, he'll be getting one of those signed constellations, and we'll try to work that holiday into the game itself.
I like it.
We also have some other runners-up who will also be getting signed constellations.
Veritas, Ergod, Talonmire, and Aurora N.
That's right. Everybody gets a constellation, and you can read all about their holidays on the forums.
And now it's time for...
News from around the verse.
Very serious. One module at a time. Arena Commander. AI missile evasion has received improvements.
As you guys know, there are a lot of ongoing issues with the missile balancing, kind of making them both fun and fair. This is part of that process.
Missiles are being added to the targeting radar hood.
So again, more work on the missiles.
Short and sweet. Flare and countermeasure efficiency has been improved.
And honestly, once again, that's part of the missile balancing, because being able to hit something with a missile is only half the system. You have to be able to counter them in an interesting, fun, interactive way. So countermeasures are getting beefed up quite a bit.
Squadron 42, Bengal carrier bridge interior is currently being worked on in the white box phase.
Those of you who have been with us for a very, very long time will remember the Bengal carrier in the initial Star Citizen pitch. We have finally come around to the point where we're putting it back in the game, and we are getting up to the current standards, so it's going to be a beast.
Gray boxing development on the Kingship, Driller, and Mauler.
Those are all big Vanduul ships, which you will be seeing in Squadron 42, and if the guys in the UK let us, we'll give you a sneak peek sometime before that. But they're all looking great. The guys over there have kind of a great shorthand for the Vanduul ships. They're coming together. They're all looking really cool.
Skydock construction site has entered concept.
That's yet another landing point for the story.
Persistent Universe, revisions and models have continued for Corp Npcs.
Corp is one of our first 5 systems. They're currently working on populating it with the NPC systems that have been developed by the folks in Austin and at Kythera. And it's coming together very interestingly, where we're trying to create all sorts of emergent gameplay just through NPC interactions on the planet side.
Drone prop has received textures and materials.
You guys have followed the drone development, and if you have looked at any of the recent ship descriptions, you'll see that drones are playing a more and more important role in Star Citizen. The RSI Orion and the Reclaimer both use drones of different types, so we need that system in place.
Nurse NPC has continued work.
That's another one of the more specific NPCs we're going to be seeing, not just at Corp, but all over the place. And as you can kind of tell, the NPCs tie into both, the NPC system that Tony Zervik has been developing, and also the health system we described at the end of last year.
Ships, Cutlass and Avenger are being balanced.
As you guys know, the Cutlass and the Avenger are both kind of getting internal remakes. They're going to be the first test beds for our modular ship development system. So they are the first in the docket for revamp.
Avenger damage states are being continued.
There are some Avenger damage states in the current build Arena Commander 1.0. They are not up to snuff, so we are improving them.
Retaliator interior is being worked on.
That one's self-explanatory. We know you guys are looking forward to seeing a Retaliator. We're hoping to get them into your hangars soon, but we do not have a date yet.
FPS module. Items can be specified if they should be held with 1 or 2 hands.
This is another one of those important tie-ins between the FPS module and the more interactive, immersive universe gameplay. It's one thing when you have a couple guns, you can model them individually. Okay, here's a one-handed gun, here's a two-handed gun. It's a whole other thing when you have a whole universe of interactive objects. What do you use to pick up your Xi'an bonsai tree? What do you use to pick up part of your robot? So putting that hook into the game is actually very important.
We fixed networking issues with the grapple beam.
Grapple beam is going to be part of the Zero-G gameplay. We don't want Zero-G to just be sort of an aside. We want it to be a big focus of the FPS module. We want to kind of do it better than anyone else has done before.
Work has continued on the battle arena.
You guys have seen some screenshots of the battle arena leaked recently. And it's essentially kind of our showpiece for Zero-G gameplay in the FPS module. We want people to have a place to try this out instead of sort of just as an aside in another level.
Now let's go over to Mark for this week's episode of
Bug Smashers!
Hey everyone, welcome back to Bug Smashers, where you drop the beat, I drop the rhyme, but not before it's time. Bug Smashers! Alright, so here we are in free flight mode right after attaching some laser weapons to this Mustang. And one of the bugs we discovered, thanks to you guys in the forums, is if you attach weapons to the Mustang on the empty item ports and go in game, your lasers on the sides will no longer charge. So I don't know if you could see in the video, but for weapon 2 and 3, their pool rate is at 55, and if I shoot, it goes to 52, 49, 46, and it keeps going, but it never charges back up. And that's because there's a bug these empty item ports not connecting the pool system to power or to heat. So let me show you how we fix that. So there are actually two ways for the pool system, or I'm sorry, the pipe system for connecting power, heat, fuel. One way is, let's go down here, it's through the vehicle. If we're not running the game from the launcher, through our development build, it will actually load the XML from the vehicle, go to the item ports, and this is where it will actually fail through the launcher. But if you're going through our internal build, you'll actually go through this method and set up all the wonderful item ports. And if we scroll down, keep going, where is it? There it is, M connection. What this will do is it will parse each of these little ports and says, hey, attach this item onto this port and hook up these connections. And that's the offline way. Now, when we go through the online way or through the launcher, it skips all this and our connections actually go through a different route, through our persistent database. So when we get stuff from the server, it'll actually set up the connections here. And so it's not through a file, it's through the actual server. And that all happens because of this lovely code. And what this bit of code does, it's similar to that offline version where it will parse the XML and it'll set up the pipes. However, the difference between these two is this guy will actually set up the pipes no matter what. So if we actually have a empty, like if this was empty, it'll actually still parse this block and load in all of the pipes, heat, power. However, on the persistent server side, if it doesn't actually have an item name, it will abort. So what happens is if this hardpoint does not have an item, it does never load the power and heat connection. So if you were to attach an item, it doesn't have power or heat because this only happens once. And when you add an item or remove an item, somewhere else it will update the port. This is the initialization area. So what we'll want to do is we want this block to continue, but if we're empty, we have to pass in some naughty values. So if we are empty, then we don't have an item class, so nothing to stick into this port. And we have to make sure that we fix up this ID because this is not a real item. This ID is basically how we track what the player has this turret, it gets given a unique ID, and that's what this block is. So what we're saying is, if we don't have an item on this port on the initial load, so we start off on the Mustang, the two hard points on the left and right wings are empty, so we're not going to have a item class, and we're not going to have a number assigned to that port yet. Sometime later, when you add stuff onto it, there's another section of the code that will hook all that up. So just during the initialization, we are not going to need it. Now we got to make sure, since we don't have an item, we don't try to see if that item has items, because that's this section right here. We have a turret, and that turret has a weapon attached. If we don't have a turret, we don't need to load this because there's nothing for that weapon to load onto. And by default, these pipes will get inherited into this item class. So whatever you hook into here will automatically get hooked into these guys. So you only have to define the pipe connections at the very root. So this will make sure that the very root will load that information. So now that we have all that information, we will build. Hopefully no compile errors. That was awesome. This is the little block right here that will read the pipe setup. So again, if the item port, as we're parsing it, if it has an item, it will load the information. Otherwise, it will fill it in with just empty information. So if we add anything later, it will initialize it. but for now we need to set up the ports, or the pipes, and that's what this block will do. Oh, we're done building. All right, let's launch the launcher. All right, so we're in the hangar. Let's attach those weapons onto this hard points. So here's my 2 laser guns attaching to the initial empty hard points. And then we will run up to the Mustang. All right, so now we're in game, and when we shoot, these laser guys on the left, 2 and 3, should recharge, and they do. So I'm shooting, and now they recharge. And that's because, well, the ports are now set up to connect to the power and to the heat. And there you have it. So this bug had to deal with empty item ports and attaching weapons to those ports. Initially, when we have the ports set up on the vehicles, the game code will run through each of them and say, all right, connect this one to power, connect this one to heat, or maybe connect them to both. And if we're running the game through our internal build, it will actually just go through an XML and parse it and set up the connections, no problem, even if there's no item. However, on our persistent data backend, it would actually go to the port and go, oh, there's no item here? Well, we're going to skip that. So initial empty item ports did not have a connection to power or heat or even fuel. So on the Mustang, for example, the 2 ports on the left and right wing, you could attach weapons to them, but because the initialization didn't set up the power or the heat, when you go in game, you can shoot, but it's never going to recharge the power on those laser weapons, so the power will just slowly degrade from 100% all the way down to 0 as you shoot. This bug also affected, I believe, the Hornet bottom front cockpit hardpoint, where if you attach the canard turret, the canard would stop working after a while or even fail to shoot, and it was just the same reason. So there you have it. We fixed a simple bug, all thanks to you guys going, hey, this doesn't work. And we're like, really? Works on our end. But that was because we're doing our dev build and not through the launcher. And that's what this problem showed, and we fixed it. So, woo! You could shoot people with your Mustang now. Good days.
Thanks, Mark.
Now let's go over to Will for this week's MVP.
Hey everybody, I'm lead moderator Will here to bring you this week's MVP. This week's MVP goes to Nebbits for his threads and videos about the modularity of Star Citizen. The videos are a bit long, about 20 minutes each, and he has 3 of them, but they're well worth your time. Also, another thing to point out is that this was another suggestion by the community. So thank you very much, Nebbits. You're this week's MVP.
Thanks, Will.
What about CS? Let's see what Chalexis is up to.
Hi, and welcome to customer service. My name's Chelsea.
And I'm Alexis.
We'd like to give you a quick update that we've gone through roughly 2,500 tickets since we last saw you. That means there's about 2,500 left to go. We are making progress. Thank you so much for your patience and bearing with us through this.
And we just wanted to give a shout out to Commander Pasta and Imperium for sending us tons of coffee, which is helpful during times like this. Also, thank you to Xiphon for the World War II foam planes.
Woo!
See you guys next week.
Thank you, ladies.
James. Now over to James, who is with our art director, Lance Powell.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with our supervising art director, Lance Powell. Lance, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks.
It's been quite an adjustment getting used to being over here.
It has been. The past couple of months has been, a huge learning curve.
Huge learning curve?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're actually up in our old office where we used to be.
Right.
Is it as cold as it is up there now as it used to be?
It's cold in the morning and hot in the afternoon.
Right.
And cold again after
Yeah.
that. So yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. All right, do you want to get into some questions?
Yeah, please.
First question comes from Capt Piponolo.
Say it again.
Capt Piponolo.
That's a great name.
All right.
Hi, Cap Pipanolo.
How do you keep track of all the ship pipelines, and how do you incorporate community feedback?
That's a great question. So we've got a master list for Q1 through Q4 for all the ships that are going to work for Arena Commander for the Persistent Universe. That's being tracked internally here for Squadron 42. They've got a separate list. So we try to cross paths where we can so that the work is spread between both teams. But that's pretty seldom.
So usually, like for example, the Squadron 42 ship pipeline and the Arena Commander ship pipeline are generally different. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think the Squadron 42 pipeline, because it's story driven, they've got specific ships that they need for their project. While ours is pretty broad, most of it is for community needs, for concept art needs, to flesh out a couple ideas to see if ships have some factory components that can flow into other ships. So we're trying to figure out process and pipeline while they're trying to figure out just the needs specifically for the property.
Cool.
The portion of the property.
Huh. Next question comes from Echo 7.
Echo 7, good name. Good name.
How do you resolve differences between artistic direction and functionality, physics modeling, etc.? And more importantly, who wins? Oh, they're putting your two houses against each other.
It's like saying offense and defense of the same team. It's there's form follows function, and that's something that is kind of well respected across the entire property. It's been respected across almost everything that this property touches. Chris's interest is in a wow, a pop, something that looks great. But the physics still needs to be part of that. So I think it's an equal, it's equal playing field. I think that the artists create something visually stunning, and then the design team and the physics guys get together and make sure that it actually can fly.
Has there been a time where they couldn't fly?
Anytime you hook something up right out of the gate, it's like you're spiraling out of control. But after a while, they dial it in so that the physics feel like it represents that ship, so that it feels like it's got mass where it needs to, and that mass is being pushed with the velocity that you'd expect it to.
Yes.
So no handling is equal, basically.
Yeah. So design, influences functionality, and functionality influences design.
Right.
It's just back and forth.
Right.
It's not two houses fighting. It's two houses united.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's like designing for Ferrari. You don't just do the shell and then say, oh, what kind of chassis can we put with that? It's it requires both, and there's plenty of testing that across that vehicle that makes that thing work, and then both parties adjust to make sure that it actually performs the way it's supposed to.
Cool. Next question comes from Dogstar.
Dogstar, I like that name. What was the last one? Echo 7?
Echo 7, yeah.
He's getting better.
Are you trying to, which one's better? You say it's getting better? Take that, Echo Star.
Complete the fifth.
What favorite, but less frequently represented science fiction scenes, environment, or ideas you found influencing the team's artistic choices for Star Citizen environments, planets, cities, stations, etc.?
That's a good question. So Star Citizen is bracketed by a handful of sci-fi influences. Mm-hmm. On one end, it would be something akin to an Aliens, which is like, Vietnam-style sci-fi. Mm-hmm. And then we've got the majority of the property, which is kind of modern-day, equivalent of future version of that as sci-fi. And then there's areas where there's a lot of flexibility, like we will seldom touch on things like Star Trek, because that tends to be a little too outside of the purview of the property, but there may be tiny components of 2001, there may be tiny components of Battlestar Galactica, and if you line those properties up, you can see that they could be tethered by a lot of their looks. So that's in terms of the ships. The environments kind of fit that exact same motif. I think that answers it. We're not going to do Tron, and we're not going to do District 9 Shantytown, but we're going to find some bracket in between that best represents the world, regardless of which planet the player goes to.
It's clearly influenced by other properties. I mean, look at the battle arena is pretty obvious what that is.
Right. No, what?
Trip me out.
No, I think that the game is really interesting in that Chris's vision is Chris's vision. Chris's vision is really a vision of something that he's been working on and towards for the past 25 years since the Wing Commander days. The people that have been brought on are adding their own influences, and the influences tend to be the stuff that we grew up with. So you're going to find your Battlestars, you're going to find your Star Wars, you're going to find your 2001s and probably 20 other sci-fi components that fit that genre that inspired all of us to get into what we're doing and what drew people here.
Yeah, totally. It's really cool seeing those influences,
Right.
But also see it as something uniquely its own.
Right.
And that
Right.
dance is really interesting.
Right.
Next question comes from Gerald Evans.
This is just getting easier and easier. Are they stacked up by like?
By like difficulty?
The last one's like Tim.
Yeah.
Just Tim.
So again, from Gerald Evans. How do you decide where to draw a line between showing space as vast and bleak or showing it as dense and colorful? How do you inspire people to stay and explore the spaces you create?
It's a good question as well. I think that the long and short of it is that we're not trying to define an exact science to this. Space is exactly that, empty space. But there are components that are specific to, say, Squadron 42, or there are components that are specific to various missions where you want to show visual interest of a set or a thing that you're about to get into so that it can set the tone for the player. The only way to do that is to give that broad range. If a player decides that they want to fly out and just kind of do their own thing and noodle around and see empty space, who doesn't want to do that? I think that, we provide that without, weighing them down with unnecessary art, because space is space.
Yeah.
The other side of that is flipping back to, a space station that may be wrapped around an destroyed asteroid, or they're mining the asteroid, and that's wrapped around a giant nebula. That's every one of those can be treated as a character. We want them to be treated as a character. We want them to be treated as a visual element that has something that a person can grab hold of, and then they can go back out to empty space. So, I don't think there's a real defining metric for how we're approaching it, other than the need at the time.
Exactly. What fits the need.
Right.
You may need something here that you don't need there.
Right.
So yes, you want people to see the vast emptiness of space, but also you want them to see something cool sometimes.
Right. Right. I mean, if you leave Earth and fly polar north, you probably won't see anything for a very long time, right? And that's the idea. But if you fly straight out, from the sun, you may come across any number of planets and Van Allen belt and everything else.
Yeah. All right. And the last question comes from Bear Squish.
Okay. All right. It's like we're circling back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Hey, Bear Squish, and is he related to? Wait, what was the first one?
Captain Pinopolo.
And is that? Oh, that's right. Is Bear Squish B-A-R-E or B-E-A-R?
B-E-A-R.
That's too bad.
What's the most memorable, awe-inspiring design moment for you, either in the one you made or one you saw that would shape your future pursuits in gaming?
So this game is unlike any game that I've ever seen. It's a kind of a best of, if I could do a little throwback, it's a best of both worlds of like a Wing Commander and Privateer combined with Doom and some Star Wars thrown in for good measure. It's one of those games where...
Star Wars.
A dash of Star Wars, right? Always had a dash of Star Wars. It's like salt, right?
Yeah.
It's the type of game where you can, the long-term view of the game is you can do stuff on a planet, see the local flora and fauna and the people, how the people are living, whether they built their society off of shipped module parts or whether it's been there for a lot longer and they've kind of built around these shipped module parts. Hop into a shuttle, go up to your spaceship off in space, maybe dogfight in the atmosphere, break the atmosphere, go into space, fight in space, collect some parts. I mean, the scope of this is exactly what I think people have been wanting for a long time, including myself. So knowing where the game is headed is what drives me, and looking at this property. The property is going to be around for, we're talking a really long time. To see all these systems pull together into this massive, well-polished, beautiful-looking game is what is going to keep me going on for a very long time.
Yeah, it really is special.
It really is.
I think we lose sight of that sometimes because we're so bogged down in the minutia. But when you really do take a step back, you realize how lucky we all are.
Right.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks
it's been
for
a
having
pleasure.
me.
You can go ahead and finish that off now if you want.
You may want to turn these cameras off.
No, now we're going to keep it on the whole time. Back to you guys.
Thanks, guys. Ben and James will be seeing you next week from Austin, Texas, while I will be staying here for Chris's BAFTA presentation on Tuesday night.
That's right. James and I are headed out to Austin on Monday. We're going to be shooting all sorts of footage for the show, deeper diving into the work the PU team there is developing. So we're going to have all sorts of stuff to show off that week and in coming weeks after that. We'll also be getting ready for the big presentation in San Antonio. It's going to be a good time, although I'm sorry you're not going to be there.
I know. Well, I think I'm coming to the presentation.
But
the PU town hall.
Oh yeah, well
Yeah.
we'll see you then at least.
Yeah, exactly.
But we will be hosting with someone from the Austin team. It'll be a surprise who. Be sure to check that out.
A surprise who? I like that. What about the art sneak peek surprise who?
Yeah, can't end the show without an art sneak peek. This is some footage from something you recently showed off on your Facebook. Check it out.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for watching, and to all of the subscribers for making this possible. We will see you next week from Austin, Texas on Around the Verse.
There's some
Vegetarians.
There's some vegetarians.
There's some vegetarians on the Avenger.